Have a night, iTube. It's Abla, and today I just want to make a very quick and simple video about the most important thing that I have learned as a young wife. From my point of view, I would think maybe like 14, 15, 16 would be a young wife, but I guess to the world I would be considered a young wife, coming into a union at 20. So I just wanted to share my experience and maybe connect with the other sisterins that are tuned into this channel. And so to get to the point, the most important thing that I would have to share and that I have learned and that I'm still growing through myself in marriage, in a union, in eternal union, is to keep an open heart. Not just an open mind. I know a lot of people say you have to keep an open mind, but really an open heart. And I say open heart, not just an open mind, because an open heart, because there's just so many things I've realized. There's so many descriptions of a traditional wife, a virtuous wife, a good wife in general. So many descriptions, whether just that general description or a religious description, whether it's Christian, Muslim, whatever it is. There's different tribal descriptions, and you can see native persons, how they behave in their families. There's just so many things we can look at and obviously learn from, take truth from different things to teach us as females how to be a wife. But that's the thing, it's how to be a wife. And that's what I mean when I say you have to keep an open heart, because marriage is not just about being a wife. Marriage to your husband is about being your husband's wife specifically. I hope that makes sense. It's not just about being a wife. That can be taught and practiced and learned over years to be a wife. Like I said, there's so many descriptions, so many things to look at, learn from, hear about, follow. So many guides to be a wife. But the only person that can teach you to be your husband's wife, which is the most important thing, you don't need to be a wife, you have to be your husband's wife, right? Well, it's important to have wifely mannerisms before getting married, but the most important thing is to mold to your husband, is what I'm saying. The only person that can teach you to mold to your husband is your husband. And this can be conflicting when you read too much into those things that you learned about being a good wife, whether it be based on religion that we grew up with or just social media. Even there's so many different influencers these days, femininity influencers, even males talking about what women should be and things like that. So the only thing you can do in marriage is keep an open heart to be able to mold to your husband specifically. That's the most important thing that I have learned, and like I said, am growing through. We cannot be so attached to the other things that we think is good. Like, you could be thinking you're being a good wife, but if that's not a good wife to your husband, then it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter that your intentions are good, but the outcome will not be what you want it to be and what you expect. When you think you're being a good wife, a virtuous wife, you think you're doing the right thing, but you don't get the outcome you expect. Those expectations can cause hurt and disconnect between you and your husband. So the most important thing to do is to mold to your husband. And the only one that can teach you to do that is that male, is your husband. So you must keep an open heart. And I believe this is why traditionally persons kept it within their tribe, within their culture, close to the family. I believe traditionally this is not the only reason, but a big reason why persons kept it close to their tribe and things like that, because we are to learn how to be a wife and mother and things like that from our close surroundings, not just how it is today. You learn from the internet, books, different religions. You're exposed to so many things these days. But traditionally, I believe you learn from your surroundings, meaning your family members, women in your family, and obviously, life rightly, your mother. So your mother knows how to be a good wife to your father. Well, that's how it should be. Because your mother and father should be your example of husband and wife. But like I said, the most important thing is to mold to your husband specifically. Now, if my mother knows how to be a good wife to my father specifically, that means my husband, for me to be a good wife to my husband then must be just like my father, right? I hope that is understood. So this is why traditionally persons keep it within the tribe, because your mother's going to teach you how to be a good wife from the perspective of how she was a wife to your father. So your husband should be like your father, pretty much, if you want to be a good wife from their perspectives, right? Because like I said, everyone has this different expectation and view, needs, wants, different things males want from their wife and what they perceive to be a good, virtuous wife that molds to them. And that's why it's important also for the father to be involved and the parents to be involved in that husband selection for a female, because they know how they raised their daughter and they know what she was taught and who she was made for, right? But today, obviously, we're not in that situation of just living in 50-person clans and keeping it within the family and things like that. And because of that, because we're all scattered and, you know, things have happened in the world, everyone is separated, globalization, and like I said, the internet, there's so many different influences today on our minds as females. So the most important thing we can do, it's not about cooking and cleaning or even just staying quiet or even talking too much, because like I said, everyone has a preference and you can't be attached to what you think is right. You have to be open to learn what your husband is teaching you is right for him. That's what matters, is keeping an open mind so that you will be able to mold to your husband. And obviously your husband should be a male that is following the order of the Most High, right? So what we as females can do is keep our hearts open. And females who are unmarried, what they can do is not just like look on the internet. I know I was really like into different femininity influencers and just listening and reading different things about being a wife and mother and things like that, which I guess it is helpful. It's more useful than other things on the internet. However, it's not the end all be all. So we can't be attached to those things. Even though there's so many resources out there that teach about being a so-called virtuous woman or wife or mother, even though those things are helpful, they can also send other spirits into us as females. Spirits that can be disagreeable to our head, to our husband. Even if they can be helpful, if that's not what the head of your household, of your family is saying, then you don't necessarily need to be attached to those things and read into them too much. We have to be careful with these different influences on the internet and that we have these days. So what's most important is what your head is saying. Even if someone else might be saying something right, what matters is what your head is saying. It's not really about right or wrong. It's just about that molding to what your husband needs and prefers. So yes, ladies that are unmarried, the most important thing to do is to work on yourself in terms of making yourself the best version of you that you can be within the eyes of God. Put yourself in alignment with God's purpose for you as much as you can. Stray away from distractions, worldly distractions, because whatever you mold yourself to be while your husband at the time is the Most High, is God, while you're unmarried, you just need to be married to God at that point in time. Just be married to God, pretty much. And then through that avenue, God will send you your husband. And then once you get married, you must remember that, you know what? I molded myself to the Most High as the Most High's purpose for me. I molded myself to that purpose as much as I could. And I worked really hard to stay away from worldly distractions and all of these things. So I need to trust that the Most High brought me a male that also worked really hard to be within the Most High's purpose for him. That also is just a man of God, so to speak. If you believe yourself to be a woman of God and you work very hard on that while you are unmarried, then you should remember once you find your husband that this person, this male, my head was put into my life through that avenue and that path of me listening and following God. So I wanted to share this because this is like the most important thing that I can say about marriage at this point, and share with sisterins that are tuning into my channel that we must keep an open heart to be able to mold to our husbands, because that's what's most important. It's not about being a wife. Anyone can be a wife. There are many wives, there are many descriptions. Everyone has a different description, from Muslim to Mercy to the sand people. So many different descriptions and preferences. So what's important is keeping an open heart so that you can be your husband's wife. You don't need to be a trophy wife or the best wife or any other things. The most important thing is to be your husband's wife. Okay? And yeah, we need to remember that. And another thing that can make it difficult for our families to help us throughout our marriages, because you just need to mold to your husband. Like, my mother may not be able to help me with the challenge in my marriage because she only knows how to be a wife to my father, and my father and my husband are not exactly the same. So this is why sometimes it's not great to get family involved in our marital affairs, because like I said, we're scattered and the world has really changed. So like I said, yes, those examples of native women or women in the Bible, women in the Quran, hopefully I pronounced that right, women in just different virtuous women throughout history. Those are great things to look at. However, the most important thing is to mold to your own husband. And like I said, I am also growing through this, and I wanted to share as a reminder to self and just for any sisterins tuning into my channel. So yes, I hope everyone is having a blissful day. God, I heal, I grow, I